GameStop employees of Reddit, what are some of your horror stories? The guy who comes in with obviously stolen stuff, but can't be called out on it, so he just keeps it up. Former employee, 2 wonderful stories. 1. Older lady brings in a bag. She looks like an addict, and she wants to sell her weed. I put my hand in the bag and it's soaking wet. Cat piss. She was furious I wouldn't take it. From that day forward, made every customer take all trades out of bags themselves. 2. My first store was long, and I had a kid and mom in back. Mom wasn't paying attention at all. 8-year-old walking around. Gets really quiet. Then mom rushes the kid out of the store. Go back there, and he took a shit on the floor. Watch the tape. Mom finds him squatting. Lets him finish, then takes him out. I worked in a store where theft was a very common occurrence. But this one dude, he nabbed one of the cheap controllers off the wall from the back of the store, puts it in his backpack. Then comes over to the counter. He reaches across the counter, opens a drawer and steals a brand new game out of the drawer, takes it away from the register, opens it, waits in line, trades the game in for $25. Then he asks me to look for something in one of the bottom drawers, and he steals back the game he just traded in a second time. After that he immediately left the store before I could notice he was gone. I gotta give him credit, he had some sleg balls. So many other sketchy things too, but this one I just had to laugh at. I used to be the ASM of a GameStop, but nothing really out of the ordinary happened there. Just a lot of lingerers. When I was the manager of a local game store though, there was definitely a lot of wild stories. The one that sticks out the most is this old dude we called Psycho Sexy, who would come in every Monday morning, try to sell me, or whoever was working, bootleg porn DVDs. He would tell us they were good for busting fat ass nuts too, and that he'd sell them to us super cheap. Every Monday he'd come in, open up his duffel bag of bootleg porn, get refused, then leave, and come back the following Monday. This went on for almost 3 years. Worked at GS a long time ago, but I'll never forget this one. One night a guy brought in a really dusty and dirty GameCube wanting cash, of course. I asked him if it worked, and he said he didn't know because he hadn't played it in a long time. I told him that we have to check every console, and when I turned it on and opened the lip, about 100 roaches came running out all over the counter. One time a woman screamed at me because her kid was tearing open a toy before paying for it, and I kindly told him to wait a little bit. She seemed on the fence on whether she wanted to buy the toy or not for her kid, so you know I wasn't glad that her kid was already ripping it open. She then proceeded to scream at me for being really awful with kids, a horrible person, bad at my job, etc. Also she wanted to complain to the manager if I ever talked to her kid like that again. She then angrily paid and walked out of the store. Also people tinkering / modding their console and then trying to return it because it doesn't work anymore and angrily insisting on having it bought that way in GameStop. This was 2007 or so. GameStop had a used game return policy, 7 days no questions asked, full refund. People would abuse this constantly, like a rental service. We knew it, and we were able to flag people who did it too often and decline them the returns. Manager policy, not company policy. Then there was this one bitch. Old lady, gaggle of grandkids. Seemed so sweet, was very nice to us while in the store, asking for help, recommendations, etc. Bought them a PS2 and a freaking gigantic stack of games, like had to be 20 to 25 at least. Her total came out over $400. I rang her out, handed her the multiple bags of stuff, and said to the kids something along the lines of, "Wow, you guys are lucky to have such a great grandma. This many games will last you months." The grandma chuckled and said, "Oh, they're only in town for the week. You guys have that 7-day return policy. I'll see you in 6 days." A gentleman comes in to buy one of our old 360 bundles, used, the old system that required the HD. He brings it back a few days later and complains that it doesn't work. We start our normal troubleshooting methods in store. We couldn't figure anything out. So I do a swap, take his old system in as defective, then sell him a replacement bundle. I go through and try to wipe the system so we can ship it back to the warehouse. Cockroaches start crawling out of the system instead. I freak out, throw the system in one of our giant shopping bags, throw that in a box, tape it shut, and throw that in another bag. My manager tells me to just shrink it out, meaning we take the loss and destroy it in the back. I take it out to the parking lot and have to throw it around to destroy it. These cockroaches freaking scatter like marbles on a floor. I'm dancing around the parking lot on my tiptoes to avoid the flood. It was awful. Had a couple come in to return a Sesame Street video game and a controller. They had a receipt from over a year ago. The game was scratched to hell and the controller was full of dried soda. They said it didn't work anymore, shocker, and were furious when I wouldn't give them their money back. Like standing there screaming at me. I was the manager, so I had no one else there to back me up. It was crazy. Their kid was bawling, the lady was swearing like a syphilitic sailor, and the husband couldn't finish a sentence. Pretty sure they were both super high too, so that was fun. When the PS2 came out, I was assistant manager and my manager would sell them out of the back room at a markup. Such a snake. I took the demo's box home with a copy of Halo before the system launched one night and had a 4-player all-night party. One of our other local stores had someone dig through the outside wall and steal everything out of their back room. I worked at GameStop as a RASM and SM for 4-ish years. I have so many stories of creepy, scary, and rude customers. Some highlights. I once got asked out on a date at the register. I'm young and naive and awkward, and I kind of stop in my tracks and tell him that I'm working and I can't answer that. I work another 4 hours or so and close by myself, and he was waiting in the parking lot for me to leave. I had a family that would bring their son in every Saturday. They explained to me that he had severe autism and he was nonverbal. No problem, except they would stand in a corner and text or whatever while he'd knock over stands, rip things from walls, and even run behind the counter and try to bite you. I had to get permission to ban them from the store, but I was tired of trying to not get bit. Also, when you get done alphabetizing the Wii games and notice your hands are covered in mystery sticky stuff from all of the filthy children handling the cases. That was pretty gross. I got scolded by management for helping a woman for 30 minutes. She bought 12 games and was looking for good recommendations for her son who was on the spectrum. I found every game on her list and a few more to surprise him. Those surprise games were Okami and Katamari Damacy. She was overjoyed that her son was going to have lots of good games to play. Why were they mad over such a large sale? Oh, because they weren't fucking used. Fuck that store. That woman wanted to make sure her son was happy, and I was tasked to do so. I know I did a good job, and you guys can close shop. Never was an employee, but on the night Grand Theft Auto 4 came out, I was waiting in line and this kid rode up in the parking lot and starting bragging about how he got the first copy and held his copy out the window. After about 10 to 15 seconds of bragging and holding it outside the window, another kid ran up from behind the car, yanked the copy from his hand, and ran into the woods behind the GameStop. They never found the kid who took it, and the kid in the car starting crying immediately. I had a guy call me a terrorist. I'm Middle Eastern. We had a buy 2 get 1 free sale on pre-owned games. He wanted to buy the 2 cheaper games and get the expensive 1 free. When informed that's not how it works, he flipped out. We had to call security in the mall we were in to get him to leave. He called corporate and corporate told us he was documented, so any negative reviews on the next few weeks would be flagged. My manager stood up for me that day. I miss that guy. We also had a fire breakout in the back room. Got rid of a lot of old inventory. Happened on Halloween. We were closed for a few days to clean and stuff. I used a fire extinguisher that day. First time ever. Years ago, 2007, 2008-ish, I trained a kid that turned around and robbed the store at gunpoint a month after we fired him for stealing. He and his buddies left without shooting anyone. My coworker was on the phone with the cops after he left while I was getting his old employee file out. reading off his 2 addresses he had down, parents and grandparents, phone number, etc. He's still serving time as the gun they used was apparently used in another homicide. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to consider the idea to maybe think about potentially subscribing. Peace.